Hello, everyone. How you doing? Again, my name is Cedric Bolton. I run a poetry program at Syracuse University called Verbal Blend. We have open mics on campus. We do poetry slams. We have writers' workshops in the evenings, Mondays and Tuesdays in the fall. We also, in partnership, have done things with the Underground Poetry Spot, which is over at Joe Reddick's. We also have several programs that we have opportunities for community and young people, high schoolers, to get involved. We also started a high school slam. It kind of is bubbling, but we really are trying to get all the schools involved because we know literacy is important and poetry is a vessel that we get young people to reading. So again, my name is Cedric Bolton. I'm in the Office of Multicultural Affairs, and you can catch me after this is over with or look me up online. Thank you.
And what he didn't tell you is he's actually on vacation this week, so I made him work a little bit. I'm sorry about that, Cedric. I told you that you could just have vacation on Facebook, didn't I? Yeah, I lied. I lie like a rug. Okay, so last month, anything for poetry, man. Anything to push the word forward. I'm like the Energizer Bunny about poetry. You know, bang, 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 listen, 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 write, read poetry. So I was at Art Rage Gallery for the annual contest and, you know, the teen contest, and I heard this remarkable young woman read. And it reminded me of me when I was that age, you know, with my righteous little self, so angry, my curly hair, my righteous little self. And, you know, remembering that I can say anything I want, but when a young person says it, it's got so much more weight, you know? When young people stand up and say, hell no, when young people say, hey, take a look, when young people say, wait a minute, we got to pay attention, you know? Because young people are inheriting all of this. Pretty as it looks today, there's some stuff going on. So, and now I have an email little relationship that I've been failing her on, you know, because I've been so busy. But fortunately, this young woman is sending me poems and gracing my day. And now she's going to grace yours. Christian Tull.
I'm going to be reading two poems. My first poem is called, If Everybody Found Something That They Love to Do, There Would Be More Peace. I think I was born with iambic pentameter in my veins. My words flow through my bloodstream and out of my mouth like capillary action, causing reactions, shifting syllables and letters to the rhythm of my stride. My voice cracks, but is mine. The eloquence of my words, so powerful, cannot be fully understood. Comprehension is therefore misrepresented by someone who has not undergone my journey. The words that I later read on paper do not seem to be mine. Tracing the letters through my mind, quickly yet discreetly maneuvering through time. The words perpetrate my soul and infiltrate my spirit and all others who hear it. The pencil and paper I was born to use. Poetry takes me to a place of peace beyond earthly dimension. A scribbled erased space of heavenly extension, showing me exactly who I am. As a poet, laureate, and author, I stand, shaky yet confident, all the while emotionless, failing to fail, preparing to prevail. With my pen and paper, I find my peace by saying my piece. My second poem is called Perception of Beauty. Born a princess in African garb, her hair as coarse as yarn at the top of her head. Her skin as dark as opal. She sees herself as beautiful because that's what she's been told. Basking within the dream, she will never get old. She lets herself sink into the world society. She's not thin enough, nor is she pretty. She doesn't fit in. Her eyes the color of cocoa beans dripping with caramel tears, as she looks into the mirror and sees her anger and fears. It seems as though accentuating her flaws is the mirror's only duty. Looking into her eyes, her perception of beauty is skewed, breaking herself into pieces like a Picasso masterpiece, cutting her beauty, and alone she bled, quenching the flame and fueling the fire. Alone she sat, begging to inquire, who am I?
So you want to come look at my inbox sometimes? My inbox has stuff like that all the time. Yay. So Cedric, what is it about the high school in community slam?
We also have for high school students who come in because they're interested in Syracuse. We have a poet learning community for students.
Ah, yeah. There's a learning community on campus for students coming to Syracuse University where they all the poets live together on the floor in the dorm in Bowen Hall. It's like, what more could you want for your freshman year than to like go to school and be with just poets and mentors? And I want to be on that list. I want to be on that list. Remember that? I'm a good mommy poet. Thanks, honey. Okay. And not only that, but at the end of the month, Jackie Warren Moore has a group of young women who are going to be doing at Beecham Library on the 30th of the month and the 1st at Beecham Library, 2 performances, a dramatic reading with Christian as one of the cast members of The Real for Color Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. Not that Tyler Perry stuff, where he just messed up that work with his own agenda. Another public service announcement. The Real Deal. And Tazaka Shange's Real, for color girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. This is the type of thing that you can go to. It's free, but you could also take a lovely donation for the Paul Robeson Theater Company that is looking for a new home and looking for support, another institution of the arts and culture of this community. And you can see young ladies with Christian taking this word of this wonderful poetry and giving it breath and giving it life the way it's supposed to be. So, on the 30th and the 1st, Miss Jackie and her young ladies at Beecham Library. What time, honey? 5 to 7:30. So you could do that and then go out for dinner afterwards at any of the wonderful establishments on the south side that need to be supported. How's that? You could go for lemonade. Best lemonade in town at Omani's on South Avenue. You could go over and get one of his fish sandwiches that are just slamming. You could go get like a real good hot dog there. So you could go to the performance. You could go get lemonade before you go to the performance, then you could go back for dinner.
You'll stay awake.
Right?
You'll stay awake.
You'll stay awake. I know my city. I know my city. All right, with that in mind, next person to speak before the microphone to bring forth ideas, thoughts, and important things is Peter Forbes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Peter Forbes. I'm a sculptor, but I periodically write. The materials are a lot cheaper. I'll tell you. The way plastics and what have you. I may have to put my glasses on here. So I have 2 of my poems I'd like to read for you. This first one I'm going to mention beforehand. It's rated PG 13 and a half. So hang on. It relates to the Afghan War. It's entitled Home, Dead and Red. Johnny's mother wished her son home from Afghanistan. This wish was soon to be fulfilled. From far up and off in our nation came a letter of notification, a letter so maudlin and formal as to be unquestionably abnormal. Upon completion of reading this letter, his mother passed through a state of near shock and was compulsively driven to indulge in one form or another of multiplication. She had some 500 photocopies of the letter made and soon found herself pasting them over the walls of her late son's bedroom. Letters, letters on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? God, government, and those good guys with white brains and ani. Incidentally, Johnny was blown to bits right in the middle of having shits. Therefore, Johnny will be home dead, all wrapped in bureaucratic dead red. Thank you. This one is called Auto Sacrament. It's referring to, of course, you'll find that there's reference to McDonald's and other sorts of restaurants, and some religious reference as well. It's called Auto Sacrament. Auto Sacrament, greasy, clothed with garish cover, dispensed with the plastic handedness of an inflatable you. Take, turn, reflect upon the bun morsel from a stunned and smooth pneumatic. Move, blurry-eyed from the white sun-stick gravel in the parking lot, shuffle toward the shining beast groping with the gleaming wafer. Take, eat, for this is a body in a bun. Rub it on your hood for fun. Greasy wafer of the what for and why, a slippery tablet that won't let you die. Take, eat, for this is your body to excrete. And of course there's I had to put this in. Please place your paper shroud and cardboard casket in the nearest litter basket and keep America beautiful. Thank you.
So we can't gather tonight without paying homage to someone really important who passed recently. A great loss to the recording industry, the poets industry, Gil Scott-Heron. Yeah, he died about a week and a half ago. And I have two quick, I cannot remember, I'm not good at remembering my poems. I'm not good at memorization. And I have a Gil Scott-Heron poem that was on WAER in April. So if you go to WAER, you can hear this, and the Panthers came to town. I love my poem. But I don't retain that stuff in this brain very well. I always need my paper, which is why I was slam master instead of slammer. It's a lot easier to do this part of it. But I have two Gil Scott-Heron stories. He came to town in the 90s. Jackie was there. Were you there, Amani, the night that he was here? It was a small group of people down in the bowels of Shine, and there were like 40 people there. And it was just him and his conga player and his keyboard and his humor and his words. And I knew he was coming, so I typed up, and the Panthers came to town, this great poem, and I took it to him. And after in the set, I walked up and I said, I've been wanting to give you this poem. I've been wanting to send you this poem, and I'm giving it to you now. And he looks at me and says, well, I guess I saved you a stamp. So at the moment, I'm like, oh, And about a week ago after he died, I finally figured out what I should have said that night. Yeah, well, it was rent due this week, dude. It took me 15 years to come up with my comeback to Gil Scott-Heron. It was rent week. Couldn't go the 44 cents. So the other is last year I was teaching some 7th graders down in Middletown, where I teach about 10 weeks of the year, and they have a block you can't get to YouTube, except I've now found out how to override the block so I can get to YouTube when I need to show kids things, The district lets teachers kind of cheat sometimes, and I know how to do it. But then I didn't, and I wanted to talk to the kids about, okay, so if you're into hip-hop and everything, you need to know the godfather of hip-hop, and that's Gil Scott-Heron. So I was looking for The Revolution Will Not Be Televised and couldn't get it. Finally found the lyrics. And I channeled Gil Scott-Heron for the 7th graders. and performed for them, the revolution will not be televised. In all of my gusto, moving through the desks, and they're looking at like, this lady's just crazy. The revolution will not be televised. So, those are my two Gil Scott Heron stories. Brother Gil, thank you for everything, and thank you for recording it all. Be sure, especially get I'm New Here, the new disc. It's really remarkable. And one more public service announcement. In the tornadoes in Joplin, Missouri last month, or was it last month or just 2 weeks ago? Who knows? 453 people were killed. The town was decimated. And the marching band, the Joplin High School marching band, needless to say, lost everything. They need instruments. And if you go to the Peace Council Facebook page and you have instruments to donate, the information on how to do it is there. Now, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I met a young man from Syracuse University who had gone to the one of the performing arts schools in New York, in the Bronx, and he had to stop playing his trumpet because when he left high school, he didn't have his instrument anymore. And I put out an email to a bunch of people, and within 5 minutes, I had a trumpet. Within an hour, I had 2 trumpets. Within 2 days, I had offers for 5 trumpets. So he has his trumpet, thanks to Joe Lee at WAER. But there are other people who have trumpets. I'm going to contact all of them and ask them to send. But I know there are trombones. I know there are clarinets. I know there are instruments that need to be breath given to them in this community, sitting in closets. Check with your family. Go to the Facebook page for the Peace Council. Let's send Joplin some instruments. Back to the peaceful place. And someone who's not unfamiliar with this stage, due to the Syracuse Shakespeare performances in the park every summer, our next poet, who is prolific beyond belief, is David Forrest Hitchcock.
Two poems. First, Threadbared. Spin me thin, but strong, taut, not knotted. A thoughtful living thread let me be, threaded through the needle's eye, and so see thee. Listening to stones. To hear stones, become one. Rest on earth and listen. They speak of dark and light, wind and rain, sun and snow, accept all in silence.
Okay, so in 1995, the Syracuse Slam team went to Ann Arbor for the National Slam. We all climbed in a van with Michael Sickler, one of our teammates, Sean Thomas Doherty, and Vanessa Allen was our backup, and me and my colleague who's going to read in a minute. All of a sudden, we were in the semifinals. It was a great experience. We saw our friends from all over the country in this beautiful theater. But that same week that we were there, the day of the semifinals, the headlines on the Detroit newspaper were Poetry Slam in Ann Arbor, Jerry Garcia dies. That was the front. It was like this weird thing. I was never a deadhead, but, Jerry Garcia dying during the slam, was kind of... And nothing else on the front cover of the news in Detroit but poets and Jerry Garcia. Now, that was something, That was great. But my teammate that year was the magnificent visual artist, friend, poet, and person who makes sure that the things in the visuals that Post Standard look right. My friend, my wonderful support system in life, Kathy Gibbons.
I love the Stones, but they're hard on the butt. Thank you for being here. I didn't think to bring a poem, but as I've been listening, one that comes from the days that Georgia and I were doing the slam came to mind, and I'm going to try to remember it. I wrote it down. In the 70s, I lived in Mexico City, and Mexico City was a place of refuge for people that went through a lot of turmoil, especially Chile. And this is one in honor of the death of Salvador Allende. In Mexico City's School of Philosophy and Letters, we gathered, hushed in the cold and darkened auditorium. Standing before us, a poet, Octavio Paz, introduced us to the widow and children, trembling and afraid, standing on the stage, a pier of refuge. We did not know when we raised our arms in love that we'd also lost Pablo Neruda in blood-bathed Chile. We did not know yet the bodies stashed and stacked in Santiago's auditorium. We did not know yet the tortures of women. I'm sorry I have to say it. Rats stuffed whole in their vaginas. We only knew the outrage of our love. We took each other's hands and vowed not to forget. Artist, peacemaker, listen. Artista, escuche. They are not silenced if we remember. Give them the clarity and the strength of your clear voice. Thank you.
That was a time trip for me. All right, so some people are really dedicated to the world of the living planet. Some people are fighting the big fight, and some people are reminding us to do the same. And the next person to read for us is that person, Frank Cetera.
Hi everyone, this is one of my own. Famished, I have been roaming among this desert of grey dearth. The objects rising before me hold no sufficiency without being propped up by the labor of millions and give so little in return. My brother called today. He needs surgery again for his chronic condition. But there is no insurance, and there was no wisdom, and thus here we are. I always hoped that we would each learn from our mothers, each of us on this planet. But our mother's milk has been poisoned and dried up by the iconocrats. Sand not underfoot, yet barren, mother gathering for her child finds not but plastic wraps and soft drink caps. The ground cover not of sweet herbs, but of asphalt, dark and sour. Heat waves rising in this desert from the heated blackness. Mother searches for berries, but finds not, but waves of nauseous rot and human lack of thought. The understory not of pregnant bushes of juice, but of poles of metal and barriers of concrete and signs for sale. Yet I see in the distance, family, they are working the field, they are working the lot, they are surrounded by looks of disdain and sneers of pain. How dare they? Who do they? Never will they overcome our lords of pleasure for lords of simple life. Mother clambers upon a bench and reaches for fruit, yet the elm is in death woes and produces nothing to eat. The awnings and the telephone wires provide our shade and our sweet onslaught of entertainment as we blind ourselves to our true human needs? A canopy which mother strains her neck towards, longing for the sunlight to nourish her crops, for clean water to fall on her dwelling and slack the thirst of her children, for the simple aspects of life to show themselves through her, not the steel and glass of man-made gods to look down upon us all. Oh, Almighty, you can always look down upon us. We will always be here, working for our release and our sufficiency. And when you are locked in your boxes and the energy only of our sister sun worms down over us all, we will welcome the overlords to join with us and forgive thee for thy ransacking of our wisdom, which you will learn can never be taken from our thousands of years of being on this earth. And as the ground is released from its overlords of weight and pressure, new life can begin as we reach into our ancestors' bag of tricks, as we must rely on some begrudged use of our master's tools to overcome our master's rules. Family is harvesting peas and carrots from this opening in the canopy. Singing can be heard in the distance and in the eaves. Sister is healthy from sweat and vegetables. The surgeons, as the soldiers, now turn to the plows. Thank you.
By the way, did any of you hear the poet over there during the going, yay? True poetry is when it's just sound, right? Before babies learn our lexicon. Okay, so this is, we're moving into the realm of the one-name poets. I love that. There's three-name poets and there's one-name poets. And the first of our one-name poets for tonight is Mozart.
How's everyone doing? Good. I'm well. Thanks for asking. This poem's for my daughter Ava. She's over there saying yay. I wrote this after I was doing some work around Martin Luther King, and I was thinking about forgiveness and being a father. My daughter Ava is 10 months old, with a smile so powerful it could light all of New York City, including Times Square on Christmas Day. She is that cute. She's old enough to hold laughter in her belly for hours, knowing the seriousness of joy in her hands are so strong. She can hold my index finger with the grip of someone wanting to live, holding onto the ledge of a tall building on a windy day. She's wise enough to lecture in her baby babble language to a room full of stuffed animals, and punctuated by pumping her pacifier in the air as if she has won a Supreme Court case for size 5 diaper babies everywhere. Ava does not know how to count on boys or girls, wrestle with the drama of existing, or try on the 5th outfit in 3 minutes complaining she has nothing to wear. She doesn't question my choices either, except for the times I don't let her eat food off the floor. All Ava knows is laughter, mini spoons, and onesies. But my problem with Ava is big. It's the fear that she will come home broken, and the joy that bounces off the walls of my house like a trampoline hooked to a jetpack will be reduced to a lone blue balloon fading towards a gray skyline unremembered. So I want to build a castle around her heart, with dragons and the U.S. Navy guarding it, so she has nothing to do with the cruel touch of human skin. So I never have to buy a tool set for heartbreak. I don't want my daughter ever reading I'm sorry in a letter never long enough to explain it. I won't lie. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day my little girl will be 10 months for the next 25 years. But it doesn't work like that. Time doesn't believe in negotiations, time outs, or moments frozen. She will run across rocks barefoot to hear her heart skip a beat again at 16. Cry into her mother's shoulder as the past is fitted for coffins. There is a day coming where the language I must speak will be forgiveness instead of the ABCs. Teaching her to pick rose petals in life and the work of pulling thorns out with your teeth. Teaching a love that restores because love punches you in the throat sometimes, and love wants to massage your neck the next, and arriving at old age is a lot like Icarus's wings, falling with grace as you shadowbox love's invisible fighters. Yes, I will tell her of the callous hands of her father, and the artichoke heart of my wife in our journey of giving someone the power to destroy us, because that person is the closest you've been to home since playing in your front yard. I will let her feel the rough edges of real life fairy tales, when the wicked witch of the west is a blood relative and there is no convenient house to fall on her head, and the clammy coldness of your friends drowning you in a pool of memories that they swore would never swim above water. My daughter will face fights and tears in the pool of holding hurt that sticks to the stomach like good food. She will know this place where holding on is more important than what happened, because weighing and measuring wrongs done is an old game we people play like tag. Ava will have to decide if the hurt she carries will be a hand grenade strapped to her chest, pulled anytime someone gets too close, or a small opening to let the light in. My strength and her choice will lie in how honest I am about these poems being clever ways to avoid telling the truth. How my art and work are symbols of the voice and strength that I never felt. She needs to know that I've been a scared brown boy sitting on a church stoop, praying not to be noticed, playing my mind's fantasy life because I'm scared of the story I live. Yes, Ava will learn that the business of love and healing is a lot like how she is now. 10 months old, trying to grab the water in the bathtub and turn it into something or someone that will never change. Until she knows the truth that the water is everywhere, no matter what. And she is holding it just as much as it is holding her. And true love is the sun never saying to the earth, "You owe me." Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. Thank you. Yeah. So, and the last part of that poem was not mine. It was Rumi's, so I just wanted to share that. But thank you. Yeah. Oh, can you do two? I didn't know. Okay. So I'm going to do one other poem. It's for Martin Luther King. I had to do work around Martin Luther King, and I thought his job was easy. It's easy to, boycott and change the whole system. So I thought it was easy. And then I started reading some books and being informed. And, you always think you know somebody until you start reading about them. And so this poem is from Martin Luther King, and it's called Merely a Man. Martin, you were just a boy with a taste for pecan pie who carried Matthew chapter 5 Sermon on the Mount in your stomach. Two-stepping out of Atlanta with a voice that sounded like a train. Carrying 100 humming church organs towards deliverance, you are the amen clap of the Baptist church stomping and standing in the streets of Montgomery, Alabama, 1955. An anchor for people striving towards freedom for 385 days. You never let up until we could all sit down. The earth looped around the sons and necks of brown boys for 1 year and 3 weeks till they grew tired of you making ghosts of their buses. As your firstborn, Yolanda, crib listened to death threats and plans under the whirl of ceiling fans and the door opening and closing at midnight, and the phone won't stop ringing. The phone won't stop ringing, the phone won't stop ringing, and I know there is no lullaby when your first house burns in front of your eyes. There's no pacifier when your feet are tired and winning is reduced to leaving a city alive. No redeeming word when your wife thinks she's married a man and not a movement, and silence is only heard between funerals. Martin, who could have forecasted your faith? In a world that's addicted to making certainties out of civil rights and the weight of a nation's strength to love on your shoulders, how could we see in the stars a woman trying to kill you in Harlem? Harlem, 1958. Azola Curry stabs you 1 inch from your blood spilling like red wine on white carpet, and our breaths are held. As if our air could be traded for your whole heart. The surgeon says if you would have sneezed, it would all be over. And I wonder, no, I bet, Azola Curry wasn't carrying out an assassination, but an inspection. She wanted to know if your courage began and ended with your heartbeats. Didn't know a man could sit at the smoking mouth of a Smith & Wesson handgun with freedom songs and sit-ins. So she wanted to examine the soft clock of your body and meet your watchmaker. What Miss Curry did not know is that fierce grace cannot be stabbed or examined. Fierce grace is a current for the committed. Fierce grace is a wind song of the motivated. Harlem wasn't a death threat, it was an investigation of your human. Martin, you are human, so tell me what moves through you. Tell me the limits of your love. Is it the feel of handcuffs tight around your wrists so you can't grip a pen, hold your kids, caress Coretta's hair? Is it dogs tearing at the thighs and ankles of boys and girls as y'all sing You Will Not Be Moved, but the hoses from the water bruises and bullets don't know names, only color? Does the taste of rusted metal, unwashed concrete, and piss unlock your anger from a prison cell for the 30th time, arrested for truth? Does charred Bibles, bloody glass, ash of a bombed church piled like remains waiting to be forgotten in the rising smoke of 4 little girls turn and twist your stomach into knots? From what cave do you face their parents with tears that would not be moved? Where is your reservoir of peace? And may I drink from that gourd. They will call you a kind prince of peace, who turns the other cheek as if pain for progress is simply a polite gesture, never knowing the measure of prayers you sent to the sky. Martin, you were a drum major for justice when men carried swords on the field. You sermoned with service, visions of mountaintops only to be stolen in Memphis. You were merely a man, stolen for a truth that ached and moved your bones into action. So I won't make myths out your history. You were stolen. So I won't make myths out your history. You were stolen. So I won't make myths out your history. You were stolen. So I won't make metaphors out your mystery. You were stolen. You were merely a man who refused to be a slave to his fears. Our ears bend to hear your voice echo through history. It's called axing. What will we risk for human dignity? Thank you.
Ah, gosh gee willikers, this is good. Yeah, that was music, Mozart. That was music in metaphor. That was beautiful. I want to bring another children's poem to the group, which is at the Zen Center. There's a group of children that meet most of the year, the Dharma Kids program that is facilitated by Jennifer Waters. And I go every so often to write a poem with the kids. And we visited the new totem that Tom Huff is sculpting a group of totems that will be along Onondaga Creek, and the first is installed at the Zen Center. So we visited it and looked at it, and then went back and wrote what we thought. We closed our eyes inside and remembered what we saw, all the animals in the totem. And this is our visit to the totem. The water reminds us plants need to grow. The sun helps the flowers, and we are all flowers. The clouds say, "Kiss my Buddha belly." The turtle reminds us to look at it and see its shell. We have skin as our shell. The butterfly reminds us about wings, that we are always growing and changing even when we are older. The snake reminds us to be quiet. The frog reminds us to hop, to keep going forward, to focus and be patient. The beaver reminds us they make dams. They are good builders with a good tail. It flaps its tail to call the other beavers. The way the man hitting the han, the fish drum, the han, in the morning to wake us up. The deer reminds us to be gentle when we meet new friends. The deer is fast as lightning. The bird reminds us to fly. The fish reminds us that they swim in water, that we are water. The eagle reminds us of freedom and peace, to fly and be strong. The Buddha in the center, the Buddhas we are, to be still, to love the lake, to be good friends always, to be calm, to be careful, to remember joy, to be happy. That's the Dharma kids of the Zen Center. Now, on Thursday nights, I am never in town or I'm someplace else all the time. And I keep getting the announcements about Underground Poetry Spot. And I keep going, I gotta go. But thankfully, Underground Poetry Spot is keeping spoken word alive in Syracuse. Cedric's keeping spoken word alive in Syracuse with Verbal Blend. And I can just be kind of quiet in the background, wanting all you people to send your poems to me so my inbox can be full with Christian's poems and yours. So the person who I know is holding the fort is Seneca. Seneca, you ready to share your language and your thought in your heart? Come on up and do it to us.
How you guys doing? All right. Like she said, my name is Seneca Wilson. I run a poetry venue down at Joe Reddick's place. It's called the Underground Poetry Spot. And I welcome you all, invite you all to come out every first and third Thursday. We actually have a show tomorrow, so if you want to come and express your poetry, we definitely would love to have you there. If you want to check our website out, it's undergroundpoetryspot.com, and it has the address and everything on there. Okay? I'm just going to do one poem, and I try to get something that's close to the topic. And this poem is called I Don't Live in a Box. Now, I don't sing that well, so y'all work with me. Normally, we always have somebody singing for me on that part, but I'm going to try to sing it for you guys, okay? I don't live in a box, no. I am free. And I don't live in a box, no. I am free. I don't live inside of a box. I don't live inside of a box. I don't live inside of a box so you can trap me and confine me in a space where my limits are restricted or imprisoned, where my mind is psychologically fixed in. I will not be held captive. I make my own choices and my own decisions because I am free. Free from all the things that binds me to society who sets imaginary limitations and invisible boundaries. I am free because I live inside of me. I don't live in a box, no. I am free. I don't live in a box, no. I am free. You can't control me. Go ahead. Put me in jail. Cell block 143. Take away my identity. Label me as number 645-114. You see, your physical entrapment allows me to be free by providing the time to grow spiritually, by finding myself and asking, who am I? When society doesn't allow us the time, and the meanwhile feeding us constant lies, pushing us farther away from our true purpose and potential. What hurts me is to see entrepreneurs taught to be drug dealers, leaders taught to be gangsters, models taught to be prostitutes. Society tells us who we are. But I challenge you to find the truth. You choose to be what you are taught. But I don't live in a box, no. I am free. And I don't live in a box, no. I am free. Thank you.
Okay, we're coming down the home stretch now, and very patiently for everyone who's been listening and people have been waiting on deck to read, our next poet is Mark.
How's everybody doing? I wrote one poem a while ago, and it was about a beautiful scene, and it kind of reminds me of tonight, so I'm going to read that. And I also wrote one on the spot while I was here, so I'll read that afterwards. So here I go. This beautiful scene, it does subsist. Basking in the glow it sits, bathing in its nothingness. The wind it blows through and through, creating a ripple in the view. We lie as rocks under the water, the waves they move further and further. Adrift they sway serendipitously, on the shore is you and me. The lines connect into a V, tying everything together unanimously, together forever, for eternity. And this one, every time I say teach, I want everybody to say peace. Teach. Peace. Into your feet. When you're walking the streets, remember who built that road underneath. Teach. Peace. Into your knees, for they are your will that bends, but don't let it change or break your beliefs. Teach. Peace. Unto your hips, let your journeys be told, not held in your sheaths. Teach. Peace. Into your hands, for everything has a purpose, even if this purpose is unplanned. Teach. Peace. Into your hearts, let your rawness be full, let it flow far. Teach. Peace. Into your minds, for however far you have explored, there is still more to find. Teach. Peace. Because peace doesn't sleep, peace doesn't weep, peace doesn't come cheap, peace comes in our sleep, when revelations run deep.
Poetry, joy is poetry, everything is poetry. You know, the world is poetry. Mosquitoes like poetry. Did I use up 30 seconds yet? They like the blood of poetry. Woo! All right, so we've got just, if we can bear with the mosquitoes for just a couple more minutes. We've got 2 more poets, and then I would like to share one of my own before we go. Leanna Dessauer, it's your turn. You've been reading at these readings a long time, haven't you? You haven't? You just come to them, right? You're going to share tonight, though. Thank you so much. Leanna Dessauer.
I'm going to read, it's actually the lyrics to a song called The Queen and the Soldier by Suzanne Vega that my 9th grade English teacher had us read one day when we had a substitute, and I've just loved it ever since then. The Queen and the Soldier. The soldier came knocking upon the Queen's door. He said, "I am not fighting for you anymore." The Queen knew she'd seen his face someplace before, and slowly she let him inside. He said, "I've watched your palace up here on the hill, and I've wondered who's the woman for whom we all kill. But I am leaving tomorrow, and you can do what you will, only first I am asking you why." Down in the long, narrow hall he was led, into her rooms with her tapestries red. And she never once took the crown from her head. She asked him there to sit down. He said, "I see you now, and you are so very young, but I've seen more battles lost than I have battles won. And I've got this intuition, says it's all for your fun. And now will you tell me why?" The young queen, she fixed him with an arrogant eye. She said, "You won't understand, and you may as well not try." But her face was a child's, and he thought she would cry. But she closed herself up like a fan. And she said, "I've swallowed a secret burning thread. It cuts me inside, and often I've bled." He laid his hand then on top of her head, and he bowed her down to the ground. "Tell me, how hungry are you? How weak you must feel, as you are living here alone, and you are never revealed. But I won't march again on your battlefield." And he took her to the window to see. And the sun, it was gold, though the sky, it was gray. And she wanted more than she ever could say. But she knew how it frightened her, and she turned away, and would not look at his face again. And he said, "I want to live as an honest man, to get all I deserve and to give all I can, and to love a young woman whom I don't understand. Your Highness, your ways are very strange." But the crown, it had fallen, and she thought she would break. And she stood there, ashamed of the way her heart ached. She took him to the doorstep, and she asked him to wait. She would only be a moment inside. Out in the distance her order was heard, and the soldier was killed, still waiting for her word. And while the queen went on strangling in the solitude she preferred, the battle continued on. And I would like to be kind of rude and make a brief little public service announcement. Sorry, I didn't have the time to ask anyone's permission. But as a lot of you may know, right now in the Assembly there was a bill for a 1-year moratorium on hydraulic fracturing gas drilling, and it passed the Assembly, but it did not even get introduced for a vote yet in the Senate. And in the next week or two, that's going to be coming up. So I would like to just ask all of you to, if you don't know about hydrofracking, research it a little and call your senator and ask them to vote for a moratorium to protect New York State. Thank you.
That ain't rude. That's our purpose. Thank you. All right. Penultimate voice for tonight is Black Man Preach.
Hello, everybody, again. I didn't actually have anything because I was driving from Rochester, so I just stopped by, but I forgot I had a phone that I just bought that has the nice technology where you can download stuff. So I'm always laughing at my poets when they come to the open mics and they have the Blackberries and the laptops and they're reading, and I'm so old school with the notebook. So now I guess I'm yeah. So when I lived in Minneapolis, I'm going to tell a quick story because I know the time, the creator's not allowing us to have a little light, but the stars will help out a little bit. When I lived in Minneapolis, I came encounter of a brother from Nigeria, and he thought that I was from Nigeria as well. So he says, "My brother, how you doing? How's your mother?" And I was like, "You know my mother? She lives in Jersey, you know." So we having this great conversation about my mother and my sister and everybody, and I just happened to say, he says, "So when are you going back to Nigeria?" And I said, "Brother, I'm from New Jersey, Patterson." And so he stopped talking to me and he walked away like he was sad that I wasn't from Africa. So I was very mad. And I took that as a diss because he didn't have nothing else to say because I wasn't from the continent, right? So for an African American, you struggle to find out who you are, and you got to go through all of the channel to read and find out you are part of a continent, a great continent. So I had wrote this poem. I started out and wrote this poem called "Am I African Enough?" And I had read it at an open mic in Minneapolis, and another poet heard me say it. And she was a female. She said, "I want to collaborate and write my part, the female side of it." So this poem has been published with the Black Commentator, so you can go online and you can download it if you like. It has the voice with it, so I'm going to read it, but not with the female voice. And this is how it goes. As I stood under the goodnight moon, positioned, absorbing the sound of the African drums, as the elders led the ceremony through the valley of truth and history, I did not move. I did not say a word. Even if the sting of the African killer bee stung me, it would not have bothered me, you see. I'm looking out and envisioning the lay of the land, Africa. I look out onto the city landscape and want to escape from the injustice I see. Get lost in sacred ceremonies, they take me far from these city streets because all I have is memories of societies built on the backs of people like me whose color they dismiss, whose very essence they insist is not African enough. Someone's calling me, that's funny. Despite our history. Can you hear it? The drums and the flashing of the three-dimensional dancing faces moving like club scenes with hip-hop beats grooving to tunes of traditional African congas beating on the hearts of African like skin like mud with the tribal marks to prove the sound of what's going on, hearts on march in Washington, firm froze and raised fists to symbolize the new, the rhythm, Africa, the revolution of Black America, the people African, the African American people. Listen up, educators of the world. Africans are coming out with 360 degrees of self-knowledge, taking trips to from global campus to Kumasi. This is amazing, still trying to call me. Kumasi. Liberia, and Zimbabwe to visit our relatives who have been waiting for us. And they are clapping. And they are clapping heavily for the doctors, the lawyers, engineers, and teachers, singers, dancers, poets, and preachers, turning blind third eyes into believers. Who will come back with the culture of the African in America? So tell me, am I African enough if I use the African drum to drop a hip-hop beat? Am I African enough if I cut a piece of kente to make my clothes? Am I African enough if I took the first fruit to start a celebration and combined it with the African to seal the combination so we'll never be separate from those who we've been away from for centuries upon centuries upon centuries? But the breaking beat in the African congas will connect the warrior with the scholar and the scholar with the warrior, and they will chant as Marcus Garvey chanted, Africa for the African. Africa for the African in America. Africa to those who believe. Africa for you and Africa for me. But we will know that there will always be someone outside the circle, one who don't understand the purpose of bridging one's lines of African and Black Americans' hearts and minds. And you'll still find that there are those who will still ask with corporate dreads and bald heads, tight Easter suits and alligator shoes, fat hip-hop attire and two-way sky pages. During this interlude, Black Americans will continue to ask in economically challenged communities. There are those who will still ask if I am doing my community duty, if paying homage is in vain, or if I've just forgotten my African name, or if my braids are just some front for some tie to my history I want. But in all this, we reply, I am African enough.
The source of all is Mother Africa, right? We have to remember that. I'm going to close with a poem of mine in honor of a great, great human being who's settled here for the remainder of her life. This is written in the voice of a belonging that she owned. This is Miss Tubman's dress form. My hard frame mimics her waist with a younger sister's envy. My dear friend and I have long paired to benefit her modesty, yet not once has she ever pricked my gray skin. Her calloused fingers tickle as she patiently pins each swatch, worsted, wool, muslin for underskirts, fragments of delicate skill. I cannot break her habit of that weathered kerchief wrapping her short crown of hair. No matter how many layers may cover below the neckline, I welcome most the intimate protection when camisole and slip take form. Her humming accents the fugue of thread being pulled through sheer cotton. Her lips flutter quiet prayers, like gypsy moths drifting on small gusts of laughter, as nieces and nephews frolic in the side yard, muffling these whispers, the floss of her rote scripture. We have our home now, brick walls, china branded with small roses from the Seward coffers. Her bed is piled with frailest quilts and tender moonlight that abides no threat. Still, I question how well she has adapted to a soft mattress. Her back is more accustomed to the awkward comforts of moss, when her rest was bound by tree bark and low-hanging clouds. I watched her stubbornly push that bed to the window, unaided, just to be closer to the winter air, to gaze through the frost glazing the sill. My single leg holds me fast as I stand silently, sentry of this corner and her troubled sleep. She often thrashes, her feet trudging under phantom full moons through snow. I cannot shout her free of Captain Brown's broken slab dangling in the December wind. Her work is clearly incomplete. Folks knock at the door at all hours. So what to do with Nelson's devotion now that he has arrived? He walked so far to declare his love. She, more than any, can value the currency of his effort. Can he withhold kisses until such guarded nights when the house is dead beneath the North Star and only the mice will be listening? Besides myself, only Mr. Tubman and Mr. Davis have been privileged to witness the strength beneath the fabric. Of my beloved Harriet I confide. Our wombs are empty twins. Hers is a hollow cave of salvation gifted to others. Mine is lost to mere utility, a small grid of braces holding back to front. On behalf of the Syracuse Peace Council, thank you for, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, sir, at doing the camera work for us. Dick? Nick, thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody. And as I always sign off before we give the mosquitoes to the bats, peace, power, poetry.